The Mario and Luigi franchise is up there for one of my favorite game series of all time, and since I've already ranked them based on how good the games are themselves, today I'm going to rank this set of games based off their soundtracks, and some of them are just so amazing. The remakes won't be included, and the rules are pretty straightforward, so without further ado, let's get started. I can wholeheartedly say that there are almost no memorable themes from the entirety of Paper Jam. My soundtrack expectations for this series have always been as high as they can be, but Paper Jam just disappointed me. The battle theme is literally a worse remix of Superstar Saga's battle theme, and a better remix of the same song was used just a year later in the Superstar Saga remake. That may just be one example of a lackluster soundtrack, but with lots of music, you have to admit it's just incredibly lazy and doesn't even try to work up to the memorable soundtracks of its predecessors. Personally, I think Mario and Luigi music has its own separate brand from normal Mario music, but Paper Jam's music just doesn't fit this unique brand. It just sounds like your generic Mario music from the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Like, Mount Burr sounds like your average snow level, Neil Bowser Castle sounds like your generic fortress level. It's just kinda lazy and disappointing. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt that there are a few decent tracks that sound like the distinct Mario and Luigi songs. They come every once in a while, can definitely be a treat to come across, I guess. Just listen to some of these. Dream Team's music has a similar sound to those few really good songs from Paper Jam, but the thing about Dream Team is it still retains that Mario and Luigi feel that Paper Jam just completely lacks. I'm a huge fan of Dream Team's soundtrack for staying true to the series, even though the music theme as a whole changed drastically along with the hardware. You can hear a clear difference between the two 3DS titles versus the DS and GBA titles, and I personally do prefer the older music, but I do think Dream Team does a really good job with its more modern style of music. In general, the music is mainly pretty upbeat, even in dire situations like huge boss fights, and when the music doesn't get serious and ominous, it hits really hard. Listen to Intasma's theme, a complete bop that comes out of nowhere. I do think there is a small issue of generic Mario music in a few areas, but it's nowhere near as much of an issue as in Paper Jam, and I'd even say it's used in the correct manner since the areas the quote-unquote generic music is used in are kind of just like generic Mario areas like the beach and desert stuff. Overall, Dream Team's music as a whole is a unique take on the franchise's music, and it still stays true to the series as a whole. I personally believe it's a bit hit or miss compared to the rest of the predecessors, but I digress. There are some nice bangers for everyone to enjoy. These next three have some of my favorite gaming soundtracks of all time. The original three Mario and Luigi games hold such memorable songs, there's such a distinct flavor to them that makes them so catchy no matter what type of emotion the music's supposed to undertake. Partners in Time is such an emotion encapsulating game because it's built around disaster and tragedy. The lowest moments are incredibly low and the highest moments are incredibly high. And the moments in between are all really dramatic and breathtaking. Look at Holly Jolly Village, a post-apocalyptic Christmas town with the most off-tone, creepy Jingle Bells theme, and it's just so sick and fitting. Look at the final boss music. The huge final climax is an intense masterpiece, and it really lets you know that you're fighting the final battle, and the fate of the world, no, the space-time continuum is solely in you, the player's hands. What I love about Partner in Time's soundtrack is when it has its breaks from the tragic story and just gets all fun and goofy. The theme that plays when the two Toadsworths are playing with the baby Peach and teach you a tutorial just hits the perfect lighthearted tone that shines light onto the even darkest situations that you come across. That's why I admire Partners in Time's soundtrack. Yes, its story is dramatic and tragic, and the music is perfectly suited when that tone is needed. But it also has its funny, goofy, happy, and blissful moments that have music suited for them too. Aside from all that, the high energy spastic music that plays during the action-like battles and boss fights and minigames is insanely catchy, and they're usually the perfect songs to hum and tap your foot to. Just take a quick listen to some of the brilliant work from Partners in Time. Superstar Saga is 100% the most iconic game in terms of its soundtrack. I mean, you hear the main battle theme for 1 second and suddenly you have an uncontrollable urge to bop your head and tap your foot. Superstar Saga to me is the basis of the rest of the music. Its catchy and sometimes spastic beats bring you back to the childlike wonders of a company that came and went. It's honestly hard to explain what makes this game's music so consistent, but I really can't name a single theme that isn't catchy as hell and stands out really well. Every track fits so perfectly with its surroundings and in-game context, and it really contributes to my personal enjoyment of the game. Then there's a few themes that stand out for their soothing, healing-like sounds that aren't like the energetic themes throughout the game. I'm no music theory expert, hell I know little or nothing about it, but Superstar Saga's staff roll just gives me goosebumps with its upbeat yet slow vibe along with the cheery whistling and the scene of the plane flying by. It just brings me back to a better time when I played the game for the first time over a decade ago and fell in love with the series as a whole, and just Nintendo as a company in general. Sure, this may sound like a pretty romanticized philosophical way of thinking about it, but to me, the song is just pure derivative bliss that never gets stale, boring, old, and most importantly, never changes. Let's take a step back to the themes as a whole again, and Superstar Saga's soundtrack is flat out fantastic, and it defined the Mario & Luigi franchise from day one in 2003. I have nothing else to say about it, just enjoy. Bowser's Inside Story has a magical soundtrack that fits any type of emotion the viewer can interpret throughout the game. Bowser's Inside Story keeps the consistency and spastic nature of Superstar Saga and expands and glorifies it to create one of the best gaming soundtracks of our time. Like, you'll see Mario and Luigi get hype and suddenly the music hypnotizes you into getting hype with them. You go, Luigi, eat that crap like there's no tomorrow. I also think the addition of a third playable character adds to the music. Like, you get to hear a variety of music rather than just the same track for 20 minutes straight, and it's just more derivative bliss. Ear candy, if you will. You'll have the gloomy, muffled tone of Bowser's insides, then suddenly a zany tune from the overworld, followed by a literal definition of a banger within the final. Like, seriously, Nintendo and Alpha Dream completely outdid themselves with this song. It sounds like some sort of insane, cinematic final battle scene from a huge war movie. And remember, this was back in 2009. Almost 12 years ago. Over a decade ago, Nintendo made a song that has very few contenders to oppose it within 3 new generations of consoles that came and went. It's just unfortunate that Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story's torch wasn't passed on as well to the 3DS, as well as the remakes of the 2 games. For some reason, the 3DS hardware just doesn't sound nearly as fitting as the hardware in the GBA and DS. I guess some games and franchises just don't need to change to be perfect. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Obviously, trying something new is great, but you know what? Perfection cannot really be made better. Just listen to some absolute greatness and vibe with me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry this took so long to make. I just had stuff going on. I've been working on a different editing project outside of the channel. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for all the support lately.